Gentlemen, I have to tell you something.
Go for it.
And I want you to know that I stand before you a corrected man, a humbled man, wiser, smarter.
Matty rarely ever changes his mind.
Get to the point.
More learned, and hopefully a better man. So earlier this week, I was taking my grandmother to a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
And after the doctor's appointment...
Can I just say, I have no idea where he's going. Doctor's appointment.
After the doctor's appointment, my grandmother says to me, "Have you had lunch yet?" And I say, "No." And she says, "Let's go get lunch." And I say, "Okay, Sasa." We call her Sasa. I say, "Okay, Sasa, where do you want to go?" And she names an establishment. Now, as soon as she says this, my heart drops. And I'm thinking, there's no fucking way. I was like, God damn it. But I'm, a good grandson. So I'm like, all right, we'll go. We'll, get your grub of choice.
I know what he's about to say.
And we pull up, and I'm looking at the menu, and I'm not really impressed by what I see here. So I get I get something that I have at other establishments that I know I like because I think, how bad could this be?
You're doing a good job of leading me on here.
And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was dead wrong about Burger King.
Oh, wow.
That shit.
What?
Bussin'. The chicken. So I just got a chicken sandwich like you would get at a Popeyes or, McDonald's aped it too kind of thing. And it was fucking delicious.
I've heard that the chicken sandwich from Burger King is especially fantastic.
It was really good. And their fries, I still think I'm more partial to McDonald's because I also like the thinness of McDonald's.
They're thick.
Whereas theirs were like thicker cut, but they were the same thing as McDonald's where they were like a little like, I know some people say soggy about McDonald's fries in like a bad way, but I kind of like the like flimsiness of them. And they kind of had that going to them, but slightly firmer, but they were like salty as shit. Like I was so thirsty after, which I like in a good fry. And unfortunately, the strawberry Fruitopia wasn't working, so that was a point deducted.
Oh, okay.
And I had to settle for iced tea instead of the nectar of the gods. But it was like so good. And then I was talking to Varsha after, and because she always gets the chicken nuggets from there, and she was saying to me, she's like, the chicken nuggets are the same chicken as what's in the chicken sandwich. So now I'm interested to try the chicken nuggets. And now that I tried that, because I was kind of debating it there in the moment, but I was like, now I'm like, I gotta go get a fucking Whopper, dude.
I feel like I've heard from multiple people that Burger King is like super underrated, and no one really talks about it.
It's funny that almost like if it comes out of my mouth, no way.
What are you talking about?
Other people's mouths.
What are you talking about? Are you saying that I heard you talk about how good Burger King is, and I said it's horrible?
Yeah,
I've never even tried it.
That definitely happened.
I've never even tried it.
Listen, now let's not get too carried away here. At the end of the day, it's fast food and it's all garbage and it's whatever. But of all the fast food garbage, I was wrong about Burger King, and I have to like dip my toe into this world now because Can
you apologize to me?
Patrick, I'd like to apologize to you.
But can you also apologize because I feel like I was trying to make it a point for all of us, and your grandma asked, so of course you're gonna go.
Yes,
but
you wanted us to all go, which I still think we should.
We should, yes.
But also, I'm surprised you're saying like you're insinuating that I was like against you because when we were in Toronto, I wanted to do it. I wanted to try it. I was excited to try it. But we were like, let's wait for everybody.
You're right, I'm mistaken.
But I've never been like, oh, Burger King's probably horrible. I'm not even going to try it.
You're right.
I never said that.
Patrick, I'd like to apologize to you. And more importantly, I'd like to apologize to one Mr. Burger King.
The man.
The man.
The man himself.
From all the advertisements.
May I please have a water?
Whopper, 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 Whopper. Yeah, I gotta get into this world now. I'm interested to see. I don't think it will ever hit the heights of McDonald's still. I mean, let's not get too crazy here. Even the dessert selection.
Revenue-wise, come on.
Well, sure, but even the dessert selection.
Can we search that up?
What, the revenue?
Search up revenue of Burger King and revenue of...
it's probably not even comparable.
You don't think so?
I don't even think it's close.
I don't think it would be.
Do I even have my phone on me?
I'm not even going to bother to look it up, and I'm just going to assume McDonald's.
I'm gonna guess, Patrick, that McDonald's straight up has double the revenue per year.
Really?
Wow.
That's my guess.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
we're talking. I don't know what.
McDonald's. Holy.
Is it a billion?
A billion. McDonald's 2022 revenue 23.18 billion.
23 billion. Jeez.
Jesus. Yeah, there's no way Burger King's touching
Burger
that.
King's hitting maybe 10 billion, if that. They're probably not even hitting that.
Me too.
But what the hell was I going to say? Yeah, I don't think Burger King will ever climb the ranks of my favorite fast food places to get anywhere close to like a
What was it?
McDonald's.
1.9 billion.
One
Oh,
point
there you
nine.
go.
So you're talking 20 times more revenue for McDonald's. I was saying double. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So
20 times?
Yeah, I mean you're saying 23 versus
23.
1 billion. 23 billion versus 1 billion.
1.9. It's more like
So
10,
2 billion,
10 times. More like
10 times.
It's more
Wow.
10 times, yeah.
But yeah, so like, will Burger King ever be as beloved to me as McDonald's?
course not.
No. Does it have a good chance? I think at this moment in time with competing like a place like Popeyes to me.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, also it's like for me, and I'm sure I don't know for you as well or for you guys, but certain restaurants where you'll go through a phase of like really liking that place. Like maybe for a month you might prefer getting Burger King over McDonald's because you've just kind of like gotten a little bit bored of McDonald's and this new thing's exciting to you.
Yeah.
Mm.
I hate to-
But generally you're gonna say McDonald's is better overall.
yeah.
You know?
I hate to bring something up. I've really been reflecting on this experience Maddie and I had
Okay.
2 months ago,
Where?
maybe a month and a half ago. Shelby's just isn't that all that.
Oh my God. I was literally talking to Tony and Pamu today because they went to Shelby's and I was telling them, I was like, I took Patrick to Shelby's and I don't think he got it.
Yeah,
What
it's not all that.
Do they
bro.
get it?
They get it.
Okay.
It's like I don't know what you. It's not bad. It's not bad. but
Listen,
it's-
having reflected on it, and I
Yeah.
know me and the guys said that we want to try Shawarma G again, like closer to trying Shelby's to directly compare the two.
Yeah.
Having not done that, I would still venture a guess that Shawarma G is better
yeah.
than Shelby's, even though it's been a while. Like I have also
Yeah.
reflected on it a little bit
Yeah.
because this is what I spend my free time doing. And I think Shawarma G in Guelph, shout out Shawarma G.
Yeah.
I think better than Shelby's.
The thing
However,
is-
Shelby's
Yeah.
like you know what Shelby's is
The
like.
vibe is good, and I respect them for like trying something different. Like
Yes.
they're different from any other.
Why
Yes.
why are they different?
Well, because I was gonna say, Mark, because you came with us to Shawarma G the one time. Shawarma
right.
G is just a straight up like you're getting shawarma, you're getting a wrap.
remember
or,
it being good.
You know, whatever, and it's
I liked
delicious. But it's not. Shawarma G is where when you want shawarma that you
Mhm.
want like really good shit,
Okay.
you're going to Shawarma G. The thing with Shelby's is I mean, you can get just the wraps, but their bowls that they do, are massive. So it's a good bang for your buck.
It is.
But they also like do a lot more like crazy shit with it. So it's kind of like when you want shawarma, but you want to like spice things up a little
Like
bit.
what? What do they do?
They
Well, because
put, like-
normally in like,
yeah.
I mean, I know you guys do the wraps and not the way I do.
No, I don't do the wraps.
In the bowls?
99% of the time I do chicken on rice.
Oh, okay,
In the
perfect,
bowls, they put the garlic, they put hummus, they put tomatoes, cucumber, onions. Maybe
You can add a bunch of shit to it because like, so
but
yeah,
that's the default. Like I didn't add.
well, yeah, it might be the default because normally like at a shawarma G, I would get like, it's the fries with the chicken on top and the sauces.
Yeah.
Whereas at this place, it's like the fries, the chicken, and the sauces. But yeah, you can get like lettuce, tomato,
So
onions.
it's like a
But
shawarma
that's- but
salad.
that's
basically.
default.
Kind of. You can get like like the crispy, like those
Onions?
crunchy cooked onions. Like you can get those thrown in there. You can add extra chicken. You could do like it's
Part of me is not even interested in that though because I like the experience of chicken on the rock so much with the sauce, the garlic sauce, and the rice and the chicken. I feel like I don't want to add shit to it.
I liked it, but I feel like maybe it was the hummus that did it for me.
Potentially.
Yeah, I don't get hummus on
It wasn't.
shawarma.
It wasn't really working in my opinion. It was
It was
like hummus
conflicting.
is like a side. to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I need to like have
You
bread.
can
and,
you can
like-
mix it in with stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you
So-
can, but
I don't know.
But yeah, it was interesting. But anyways, we've belabored this long enough here. But so yeah, Burger King.
Can we please all go out to Burger King? I'd like to try.
I
it.
would
think we
love
should.
that. I would love that.
I
Here's
want to
the
try.
thing.
I'm gonna buy a Whopper. And
Yes.
I'm gonna buy a chicken sandwich. I want to try both.
Here's my thing.
I would advise you guys not to get the Whoppers.
Why not?
Like, I have a friend who's like, I referenced him last time we talked about this, who used to be a teammate of mine, and he put me on to like different burgers there.
Okay.
Right.
None of them being the Whopper, and it was like legit.
No, but the Whopper. Have you tried the Whopper?
I've tried the Whopper. It's pretty basic.
Okay.
Here's
Because
the
I've
thing,
heard that
though,
it's very.
And I was gonna say to Mark's point, now that I've dipped my toe in, what I want to try next is the Whopper and their chicken nuggets. Because my thing is like when
Do they have sweet and sour sauce?
that I don't know.
They have to, right?
Maybe.
It doesn't matter. You can get sweet and sour sauce from anywhere.
But if
You can
I'm
dip it.
getting chicken, what do you mean from anywhere?
you want
If I'm
their
gonna
you want their own proprietary sauce or whatever.
If I'm gonna go to
It's just
Burger
sweet
King,
and-
I'm
it's
not
just sweet and
gonna
sour.
bring my own from outside. What do you mean?
That's
Like,
true.
I'm
No,
gonna
but
go to
if you have
McDonald's
some at
first?
home,
I don't have it at home.
you don't have. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You should
But
get some.
my thing I was gonna say is like to me when I think about fast food places, and I know this.
Oh,
Isn't-
I'm having sharp heart pain real quick.
Oh no.
no.
You guys ever have that like random like sharp pain?
Yes, I
Mark's
do.
dying.
I don't like that.
I know this doesn't necessarily count because like there's fast food places like Bar Burrito which don't have any of this shit. But like of your traditional kind of fast food places, to me, it's like comparing their main burger, Now I think the chicken burger is in play at a lot of these places. The nuggets and the fries.
Wait, so Burger King doesn't have a chicken burger; it has a chicken sandwich.
They-
where it's
yeah,
like
it's like a chicken
is it like
sandwich.
elongated?
There was more of like a sub version, but I got the one that you would get at like McDonald's or Popeyes.
What do you
or
mean?
whatever.
What's the difference? The one is just elongated, but it's the same chicken.
I think so, but it's on like the
That can't
like
be right.
longer, like almost sub bun,
So it's just the same chicken, but pulled a little bit longer.
maybe, or I don't know if there's like
What's
extra
baffling
shit.
to you?
It's
Chicken is chicken.
That's
my
like
guy.
that's like if McDonald's made a McChicken circular one and then like an
A sub
oblong
one.
one, but it was the same.
I am certain that the oblonged one came first.
Well, that's what I thought their classic chicken.
Yeah, I
sandwich
would
was.
imagine that's like the more traditional one, and then the chicken sandwich I got because it even had like a spicy and a mild variant. Like it's just their
Okay.
knockoff of like Popeyes and
Oh, I
all
see
that
what it is.
shit.
So it's them trying to play into the chicken sandwich game because
yeah,
like,
because
to them
it's like
like
lettuce and the mayo and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's the same shit as everywhere else, but it was really good.
You know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to Burger King as well because I remember when I was fasting with my family once, we went to get like fish sandwiches because we were on the road and we had to stop somewhere and we just got some and they were pretty good. And I remember liking the fries quite a bit; they were nice and thick, and the fish sandwich was pretty good. Like better tasting than like a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish because Filet-O-Fish with a lot of stuff at McDonald's feels very like fakey. It doesn't feel like real. It feels kind of like very manufactured. But like the Burger King one tasted more like actual fish. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Anyway.
Anyways, well, this has been 11 minutes on Burger King.
Holy.
So thank you, Burger King. Shout out Burger King. I was wrong, Mr. King. I'd
Sponsor-
like to offer you an apology. Sponsor us
A future episode, please.
and give us your money, you fucking cowards. Welcome back to episode 13 of Wildly Adequate. And that 13 is an unlucky number. Will we fuck this episode up? Let's see. The show about anything, everything, and usually nothing. I am once again 1/3 of your host and crew, Mr. Matthew Arso, and I am joined, as always.
I cannot believe he's not here.
Well, I was going to get to that in a second,
I'm
but
sorry.
who are you?
I'm Patrick. I'm Patrick Feeham, guys.
Mhm.
My name's Mark, and I can't believe he's not here.
Malcolm is once again not with us. Malcolm has died. That's the second time I've used that joke since he's been away. No, Malcolm is now back in the country. He got home safe and sound, but he is not joining us again tonight because he's a dumbass.
I mean, he's not feeling
I
well as
don't-
well, but
That's not the reason, though.
I'm sure that's a part of it. But I
No,
mean,
it's not even a little bit a part of it.
No, it's not.
He said, I'm not going to be able to be ready for that time.
That's true. I mean,
It's like, try harder.
He also went to the gym, so it's not like he was, like
Yeah,
I agree with
yeah,
you.
How
yeah,
hard
yeah.
could you? How
Yeah.
hard could
It's
you
like
really
it's
hit?
try harder. That's all it is.
Do better.
Sure.
Be better. So yeah. Anyways, so I know last week we said that Malcolm would be back this week, but he's not. So deal with it. But hopefully he'll be back next week. So anyways, that means there's only 3 of us, 3 topics, a bit of a shorter episode on your hands
That's
again
true.
for you.
We can go Betty bag earlier.
Exactly. We can go sleep early, and it'll be less for me to edit. So you know what? In the end, it's whatever.
Passion.
I believe I'm starting today is what
You
we
are.
settle on. So I'd like to. I don't know how long we'll do on this, but I figured it would be one to do now.
Mine
let's-
might be shorter as well.
Oh, that's okay. Then maybe it'll be a really short episode. Let's have some laughs, fellas.
Mm.
Okay.
I want to talk about stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I love stand
What
up.
about stand-up comedy?
A couple
wanna
different
give us a bit?
aspects. Just your guys is like, how much do you follow
No.
or like care about?
No, I want you to give us a bit. I
don't-
want your topic
I
to be
don't-
you giving
I don't
it.
have a bit. Although that was going to also be part of the topic is like, would each of us ever consider
Mm.
doing stand up,
Mm, mm, mm.
But
You
we'll
want-
get to that.
you
I think
wanna
that'll be
start?
like a, kind of a tail end thing. But so
Sure.
stand up comedy in general, I just wanted to I'm a big fan personally. I think the 3 of us are
Mm.
to varying degrees. And I think we've got like some of our fave comedians and all that. And I'm sure we'll get into some of those too. But I just find comedy such an interesting, from a very top level thing before we get into the meat and potatoes, I find it just a very interesting thing because it's sort of it's like the modern day court jester
Mm.
in a kingdom, where it's like the people who kind of like get the point.
I don't agree with that.
Why don't we
Why?
let him finish his point first?
Well, why don't you agree with that?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, a court jester was laughed at.
Yeah.
Like he was another
The
name
butt-
for the
the butt
court
end of the-
jester is the court fool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
As in, like it's not a position you wanted.
Well, some people, I mean, some modern day comedians have very self-deprecating humor, and so they're
That's
meant to be.
true.
You're meant to laugh at their situation or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's more self-aware for sure.
My
than,
thing
like,
is, it's just like, it's like you're it's like the court jester was like the entertainer, for better or worse, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And they were like the one person who could, like, poke fun at the king kind of
That's
thing.
right.
And it would be whatever. And that's to me like,
and then the king gets mad and kills
yeah,
him.
and then unless the king got like offended and killed it. But like they were the kind of person that like had that leeway.
Yeah.
And so it's like, stand-up comedy as it is now is kind of like the spiritual successor to that, in a sense, where it's like they're the kind of people who get to like say the edgy shit.
I think
like,
Patrick still
toe
disagrees.
the line and
I
make
know, I
fun
hear
of
what you're
things.
saying.
Patrick, you're a scumbag.
I didn't. Why did you?
Yeah, being stupid.
Oh, okay.
I like Patrick's bewilderment at like
Yeah.
him being like, "Why am I a scumbag?
I'm
I
just
didn't even say anything."
I'm just listening.
So from like a top level thing, I just find that interesting about comedy. I find it to be an interesting like art form, like the idea of just getting up there
See,
and like
that's
making
funny to me.
people laugh.
That's what you just said is comedic.
Whoa.
Because
Why?
you would say comedy is an art form, but not sports. You've never heard of the art of motion, but. And I'm not saying comedy isn't an art form, but it's just funny to me that you.
What
would
about
think-
mixed martial arts?
You made that same exact joke the
I
last
don't
time we brought it.
remember-
But also, it's not really a joke though. It's literally art in the more.
I know,
like,
but you made that.
I know.
I think
point.
some sports can be art, like dancing and figure skating and that kind of shit. I think is like
Soccer is art, bro.
I don't think like soccer and hockey and
Soccer
football or
is an
whatever are
art.
like art in the.
It's
Oh,
like
wow.
this is like a
You-
sem- this is like
you
a semant-
pain.
this is like a semantic argument. Who gives a shit?
It's a semantic argument, but it pains my heart that he doesn't see. Like, how do you not see hockey as art?
I see it in a sense like we talked about on the very first episode, like sports as like storytelling in a lot of ways, but I don't necessarily see
But-
it as like art.
But it's interesting.
Isn't
that you're-
art storytelling?
But it's interesting that you're
Can't
saying.
art be storytelling? Sorry.
But isn't it interesting that he's saying that like ice skating could be, but hockey is not, even though there's like height.
Well, because to
You know
me
what
it's
I'm
like the dance aspect of it, because I would like consider dance like
Sure.
ballets
Okay,
and that
so-
kind of shit.
You know what? I might have to agree with Matty because I feel like art is like is an expression thing, but you're not really like you're not expressing yourself in sport. You're like functioning to do something properly. You know what I'm saying? You're
like
not.
it's
You're
a
not like
game,
you're not
but
like
it's not like like it's not an expressive.
expression is like open to like interpretation. Like whether you did a technique properly isn't open to it's like you did it properly. Or
I
you didn't.
disagree with that because
There's individual flair. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like overall, it's like it's technique, it's precision. I don't know if it's like expression.
And listen, I'm also
it depends
Mr.
on what it depends on how you view it. I think that
Sure.
that like people would say Ronaldinho. I mean, you did bring up the flair, but like yeah, Ronaldinho was like an artist on the ball. Like he was a maestro, and just yes, it's the game and it's like strategic or whatever, but it's like the decisions the players make and the decisions they make together kind of thing that like to me is like art almost. That's just the way. I don't know. I just can't see it any other way.
But is it because it's highly impressive? Because I don't know if those two things are equivalent.
because it's
you know?
beautiful.
Mm.
And I know that sounds corny and
Well, I guess-
and cringy maybe a little bit, but I genuinely
Well, then I guess just art is
believe it.
art is in like what's what do they say, like in the eye of the beholder or whatever.
Right.
yeah,
It's like
beauty
everyone-
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
But I'm saying you could say the same thing about art.
Oh,
of
art
like
is
of
in the
it's
eye of
like
the beholder.
it depends on who you are. It's like something to you could be beautifully artistic, but someone
Yeah.
else it just looks like
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
My thing is I've always separated them, but at the same time, like you guys know me, I'm Mr. Let art be art. So like if people want to say sports is art, like
Yeah.
This is a whole thing. Like
This is a whole
This is
thing.
a whole thing where it's like there's some philosophers who like debate on what art is,
Yeah.
and
Right.
some believe that simply that art is defined by the art community, and who's the art community. Anyone who like consumes art, they decide what art is.
I don't like that.
Disagree.
Disagree.
Honestly, we can make this a topic.
There you go.
Sure,
we can
yeah.
get top of it.
What I was
Anyways,
gonna say about comedy though, because
Mm.
you were talking about like the court jester thing, and to me, I even have a note here as a potential topic that I was gonna do in the future, and I just wrote something to the effect of the protective nature of comedy, because I was just thinking about how like you could be in a situation that's like very tense, or you could be in a situation where you're around people that may not agree with you and like maybe hostile towards you because of an opinion you have or something. But if you tell a really genuinely funny joke, like you're kind of like there's a protective barrier around you. Like it's almost like you diffuse everything. It's like it's a very like universal thing.
right.
And I think it's really cool how like
Is that true in today's
Like-
climate though?
I mean yes and no. I mean yeah. I mean I know what you're talking about, but like also I'm thinking about the reason I'm saying it is because when I'm thinking about the court jester thing, it's like the highest position in the whole kingdom or whatever, the king can still be made fun of, and like the jester is like safe because like he's genuinely being funny, whatever. People, it's like a really cool, like everyone puts their guard down, and I mean, not everybody, but I mean, it's just cool how that has that effect, and how like I feel like oftentimes you can be around people who are like very sensitive about jokes, or maybe very conservative, and if they don't want to hear certain things, but if you make a genuinely funny joke, they'll laugh anyway.
Right.
Mhm.
So to me, it's like really cool how comedy like transcends people's like barriers that they put up. Like a lot of people will like, you might not think they would laugh, and you might think that they would think it's a super inappropriate joke, but if it's a really good joke, even if it's super offensive to them, like they still might laugh because it's like genuinely like, I don't know, resonates with them,
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that's a salient point that I was going to kind of get into as well, where it's like I don't necessarily buy the argument that some comedians have definitely made, or people have made about comedians, where it's like they're like the modern day philosophers and whatever, saying like controversial shit that like people aren't ready to hear. I'm like, no.
I mean,
I think a very select few of them are. My personal favorite, who we'll get to in a
namely
bit.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, like
His
he
favorite
kind of.
is not Dave Chappelle.
No, but I'm saying in terms of like, you're talking about Carlin, I'm assuming. But I was gonna
who
say like,
I'll get into my undying love of him in a bit, but I do get what you're saying, and what I like about comedy is that it is this thing where it's like, in essence, it's just this idea that like nothing is safe and everything can be made fun of, and obviously there are people on all sides of the like political spectrum that think you can't joke about certain things, like, or shouldn't, whatever, but like, to me, it is what you're saying, where it is just this idea that it's like comedians are the people who, especially the best comedians, are the ones who like
get away with it.
can do it and get away with it. And even to the court jester thing, like I think it's such a important thing and such a like great value that in the States they still have the presidential dinner, where like every time a new president is sworn in, they have the comedian come in and like basically roast the fucking president.
What do they call it? I don't know what they call it.
I thought it was the president's dinner.
Is that what it's called?
It might be. I don't know.
I know they broadcast it live.
Yeah,
and it's watched.
And there have been like iconic and great ones of just like comedians just like making fun of the president, and that to me is like the modern day like court jester thing of like
Colbert,
hey, you're the president. Yeah, like Colbert's done it. It's like, hey, you're the president, and like you're the top shit now, but also like we're still gonna fucking make fun of you for like an hour here.
I'm just thinking of like the dictator, like someone making fun of him, and he does that thing where he like
does
the motion on his neck, like you're done.
That's right. The quick swipe.
Yeah. So it's like he's like laughing with everybody, and then he looks off to his side man, and he's like,
all dead serious.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, and so that to me is kind of what I think is so like interesting and wonderful about comedy as an art form, and also why I think it's worth protecting. Again, not because I think like 99% of comedians are like these philosophers, but like there is something to the point about protecting the idea that like there are people who can like say whatever the hell they want. Not that anybody can't do it, but like that they can say whatever the hell they want and hopefully convey a message while like making you laugh, kind of thing.
It's like a tightrope walk or whatever, where it's like very few people are that I don't know how to say it, but like there's very few people who are that good with their words that they're able to like make it work.
Yes.
Like there are certain comedians that can say shit like
like
Louis C.K. will
will
say the most insane shit, and he's one of my favorites ever.
Yeah.
He can say some of the most like vulgar stuff I've ever heard in my life, and the crowd is going crazy laughing.
Yeah.
And I would assume a lot of those people have families, and they have daughters, and they have sons, and he's talking about horrible things happening to kids, and all. He's talking about everything.
Yeah.
And yet everyone's dying laughing. So it's like, and like Matty is saying, it's like it's not like people are limited to what they can say. Like everyone can say whatever they want, but very few people are like so good at it that they're just going to get away with it.
Well, I mean, on the point that of you saying anyone can say whatever they want, I mean, we know that's not true all over the world, but how do you guys feel about comedians being sort of like a defense for, I guess, freedom of speech ideas in the West?
Comedians being?
Yeah, like I feel like they're sort of in some ways like the last line of defense for freedom of speech in a way.
I think a lot of them are definitely one of the lines of defense because a lot of them don't give a shit.
It's almost like a litmus. Like if it's like if the comedians are not talking about anything and everything, then it's almost like
something's wrong.
You know
what? You know what's weird? You know what's weird to me? I feel like because I mean when you're talking about like freedom of speech and stuff, I mean I know in the States it's like it's a part of the Constitution to have freedom of speech and you can like to not be infringed on and stuff, but like in Canada and a lot of places across the world, it's like there are certain topics that are like designated as hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not allowed to say certain things, right? Am I correct about that?
About Canada?
Like certain countries, just like Canada included, where there are certain things that if you say, it's considered hate speech.
That's
and you
right.
Can be like, so to me, I'm always curious. Like, I wonder if comedians are made aware of that. Like when we saw Segura and he was amazing, and we saw him in Kitchener or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Was he saying things that were like under the hate speech laws? Like
I
was
think
he
in
saying
Canada, the only things that with regards to speech that you can be penalized for is like gender stuff, as of right now.
But I feel like a lot of comedians make gender jokes. So are they?
No, but like it's specifically misgendering someone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like very targeted to an individual, I guess. Like purposefully.
It would be a
calling-
scenario. It would be a
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's-
it's and I don't know if I'm right about this, but I think I was watching something where they were reading out the bill, and it's not just purposeful.
Okay.
It's
Accidental.
accidental as well, or something crazy
Oh.
like that. But I could be wrong about
Well,
that.
to me, it's like the fact that a comedian can come to Canada and do a whole set and, not be in any legal trouble is still a good sign. I mean, that means that freedom of speech is still alive and well, even if
Mhm.
it's not like 100%
100%.
there.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like Segura could come and make jokes about whatever he wants, and like he doesn't have to worry about what Canada's laws are or whatever. Like, we're good.
Right. Yeah, and I think, like Patrick was saying, I think there is something to the idea that, yeah, it's like the comedians are like, again, because it's not to underplay the role of comedians, I guess, but it's also not to overplay it like some people do. But yeah, there is just something to the point of like having them around as the sort of like, not the like arbiters of anything, but just the idea that like they can say and get away with stuff, and like, if they can't, then nobody can,
Yeah,
in a way,
it's
kind of thing.
it's almost like
Yeah.
let's hear like a dissenting opinion here, because a lot of people will be in a kind of like, what's politically correct right now? Let's all kind of play within this like framework that we're safe in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and even like people who might not think that, they might think that what's going on in society and like PC stuff is bullshit or whatever, but at work and all this stuff, they're not going to speak up and say something that might
What's PC?
like politically correct.
Oh.
So I'm saying, like, even if you think that like a lot of the politically correct stuff nowadays, like, oh, you shouldn't say this, you should say this, like, if you think that's bullshit, you might not speak up about it. But like comedians, like their job is to like say what's on their mind, like whatever's on their mind, they're gonna say it. So it's
Right.
like it's a cool position to be like, you know what, even if all of society is like playing within this one framework or opinion about something, like comedians are outside of that, and they're kind of like poking at it and seeing what works and what doesn't work,
Yeah.
and like
It's really
critiquing it.
Yeah. It's just because, Matty, you said in the beginning you would ask us if we would ever consider that. It's just so impressive to me, like being a stand-up comedian. I could never do it though. Like I'm just not clever like them. I'm not. It's nothing about performing in front of people. I
Right.
have zero problem performing in front of people, but maybe zero is too strong a word. But, it's just I don't know. They're like Mark said. There's the way of saying it. So there's the charisma aspect of it, and then
Yeah.
it's the content of what you're saying.
Sure.
Where it's so it's the charisma, the content. Is charisma how you say it? Yeah, charisma.
I think charisma is a part of how you. I mean, I feel like to me it's.
Is charisma more of like charisma is how you say it?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like the best comedians are obviously those that are extremely charismatic,
Yeah.
and the delivery is excellent, but at the same time, like what they're saying is very like poignant.
But it's funny because I don't think I'm using charisma in the sense of like where it's like they're like really articulate or they're really like suave.
No, you're just talking
in
about
a
their
sense.
timing, right?
I'm talking about their timing or like whatever works for them. Like Anthony Jeselnik, super monotone,
Dry, yeah.
super dry, but like
Yeah,
it
he's
works.
not like- he's
but
not
his
like,
delivery
you
is on
know,
point.
He's not like winning a room over by being
Mm.
like, look at how like a smooth talker I am. Like he's
Yeah.
very like kind of monotone and to the point, but it's just
Yeah.
like
But
hilarious.
it's beautiful to me that people can like comedians can just rise to the top, just based on they're just being themselves, and they're just excellent, and they're super smart, and they're articulate, and they're charismatic, and they can just like rise to the top from nothing. It's just really cool how like people will just
You mean
recognize.
financially.
No, I'm just talking about financially. I'm success wise in
Status?
general.
It's
yeah.
a very direct art form.
It is. It's like-
unlike a lot of other ones. Like movies
Yeah,
is
yeah.
not a direct art
No,
form.
it's
It
funded
requires
and-
teams of
yeah.
people and like months and years of work. Same with video games. Like writing comics and books is a similar thing. And even music, it's like you could go play like music at a club somewhere, but it's like you still have like that would be more direct. Like you don't necessarily have to be on Spotify.
No, but comedians, if you're genuinely funny, you will become popular. If you're genuinely funny, and you're out there all the time and you're exposing yourself to people and a lot of people think you're genuinely funny, you'll get more popular, you know? And you're just like, it's really cool. It's a really cool system, I guess.
To Patrick's thing, stand-up comedy is one of those things that I think about doing every once in a while. The two things that like hold me back is I've always had the thought, like, you could put me on a stage in front of like the fucking, like, you could put me in the center field at a Super Bowl game in front of all those people and be like, hey Matt, talk about video games. I'd be like, buckle up people, like, let's get into video games. Like, I have no problem just like talking and existing on a stage in front of people. What I've always had a harder time with was like having something memorized or whatever, because even in like doing like fucking school projects, like if I ever had a school project where it was just, hey, get up there and talk for a bit, it's like, all right, like, how long do you want me to go, kind of thing. Whereas when it was a set, it needed to be within this time, you know, limit, or it had to be on these topics. Like if it was anything that required a certain amount of memorization, that freaked me out a bit more, because it was like not wanting to fuck up. So I think that's what holds me back.
But also you're talking about like a one-time thing. But like I mean, what I've heard from like listening to a lot of like comedy podcasts and shit, it's like for them, what a lot of popular comedians say is that it's all about like getting on there every night and just like performing every night as much as you can, and like writing and having like a, you know, even if you have like 5 minutes and like performing your 5 minutes, perfecting it and then adding more and then adding more. So it's like what you're talking about, I feel like, is more like a one-time, like, oh, you're memorizing a bit that you did and then you just do it and that's it. But like if you're constantly doing it, I feel like you could, you know, become more comfortable with having something
Also,
memorized.
right.
Also, if you're creating things like many comedians do, things based off of your life, I feel
probably
like
easier.
that makes it easier as well.
Remember, like in elementary school and shit, or in high school as well, we'd have to like pick a topic or pick a movie or pick a book and then write an essay about it or whatever. It's like, even if we're interested in it and we like the book, it's not like deeply personal to us, because it's not, you know, we don't have direct experience with it, we probably don't. So like you're saying, it's like it's probably easier to talk from, you know, from what you know already.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing that holds me back is just like
the fact that you're not funny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in a sense, yeah, it's like I just don't know if I've.
Are you scared
got
to
it.
know if you're funny? Because like I feel like doing stand-up comedy
No, but here's the thing.
is a way
really
to gauge. It's a way of gauging if you're funny, in the sense of like trying to be funny.
But
like
that's
if you're
my
trying
thing.
to be funny
Yes.
and then you're not funny.
Here's
then
my
it's
thing.
like,
If I could toot my own horn for a little bit,
yeah.
I like to think that like generally in just everyday conversation and like interactions, I'm a funny person.
Okay.
And I also like, I'm not trying to compare myself to like actual professional stand-up comedians in like any real way, but I'm saying
I
like
can't believe he's trying to compare.
In a real way.
In a real way. Like, but the thing that stand-up comedians, like some of them talk about the idea that like a lot of them just like the way their heads work is they're just always trying to find that like next bit or next joke, sometimes to a fault.
They're always on.
Is something I also like find in myself, or again, in everyday conversation, it is a thing of like, if I'm like cracking a joke or being funny in conversation, it's always that thing for me of like, well, I got the one laugh. Could I get another laugh kind of thing? And like chasing that kind of thing. But my point is, even though I think generally speaking, I'm a funny enough person, what I don't think I've got, at least without like years of honing it, is actually what you were saying of Patrick, of trying to be funny, of like actually sitting down, writing bits, and you know, the setup, the punchline, or doing the stories, like all that kind of shit, like actually sitting and thinking about it and doing it, I don't think I've got. I know for a fact I don't have right now.
But I feel like a lot of comedians started that way, and like
right.
Other than Jerry Seinfeld, he talks about how like he started and he was good. Like, he's like I didn't have to like build my way up and like fail and bomb, and like he's like I never bombed. I was just like the first time I was good.
Right.
And
that's the thing where it's like I'm sure if it's something that if I put in the time and effort to, I might get slightly better at. But but my point is, I also think there's a very likely outcome where I put in the time and work and it just still doesn't work. And I'm like, I'm just not cut out for this.
I think people overestimate how funny they are generally. I think that most people will be like, because I've heard comedians talk about like, oh, this guy came up to me and he was like, oh, you're a comedian, huh? Like, people tell me I should be a comedian. My friends say I'm funny or whatever. And then they'll try to tell him a joke, and it's like, for a lot of people, I feel like they think that, and I'm not saying this about you, but I'm saying like,
I definitely am not
No,
what
no,
you're
no.
saying, where it's
No,
like,
yeah.
I think I'm like
yeah.
generally funny.
You're not delusional. You're like, I'm gonna be a big.
But yeah, but I have like no illusions of grandeur of like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go on a stage and murder.
yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like people think because it's very like you're watching it, and it's like that guy's just talking to people.
Right.
Like I talk to people every day, and I make my coworkers laugh or whatever.
Right.
And you're just a random guy who like makes a decent joke here and then. Like,
Exactly.
You can't get up there and talk for an hour.
It looks the thing is, it's that it's deceivingly simple.
Yeah.
Like it looks, in essence, it is like
Yeah.
you're on stage, you're telling funny shit and making people laugh. Like if you really boil it down, but there's so much like added bits and pieces to it that it looks like
Yeah.
he's not playing an instrument. He's not some pro athlete. Like they're not whatever. It's just some guy on a stage with a mic, and
Yeah.
it looks like anybody
That-
could do
that's-
that.
It's literally to the point where it's every pause even matters.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when they,
Yeah, I've heard comedians again. I was basically all the podcasts I listen to are like comedy podcasts, and I've heard a lot of comedians talk about like you pause here and it's dead, no one laughs, and you pause a second later and it gets a big laugh. Like people will be very like naturally, I don't know. Anyway, but also what you're saying about how like deceptively simple it looks. I feel like the same way about like certain sports too. Like I think people have said that about soccer as well.
Soccer for sure.
Like it just kind of looks like, oh, it's just a ball in front of your foot and you just kick it in the net. And
that
that's
makes
it.
me so angry.
Right?
To
And
hear
then
people say it's just kicking a
It's
ball.
like, yeah, now do that for 90 minutes.
Yeah,
straight.
do that for 90 minutes.
Not even
and
doing it for the
against
time
against
wise.
like a 6'4" like freak athlete goalkeeper and like crazy defenders running after you. It's like
Just I want to see them play the ball one touch. It's coming at them.
Yeah,
play
yeah.
it one touch accurately. That's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
I'd like to see.
yeah, but people who don't know the sport, for example,
Yeah.
will like watch a game. Like let's say you were playing a game,
Yeah.
and I brought someone who had never seen soccer before live,
Mm.
and they were watching, and they never played soccer rather, and they watched you play, and someone made passed it to you, like lobbed it to you, and you kind of like fumbled the control a little bit, and then the defender took it. They'd be like, "Oh, that guy sucks. Like, why couldn't he like it looks why didn't he just drop it with his foot and then kick it? Like, I don't understand."
They'd be right,
yeah.
but not for the reason they think.
No, yeah, it's harder than it looks, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's the thing in terms of ever actually doing it. I think one day I would like to try like to see if I could come up with a 5-minute set and do it at like an open mic thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of
just for the fun of
like
it.
Yuck Yucks or whatever.
Yeah,
The
like
Toronto
just for the fun of it, like because I also think again, obviously the idea of bombing sucks,
Sure.
but to go to some
should do it over
random
the summer.
club I've never been to,
Bro, I couldn't. A bit-
bomb for 5
yeah.
minutes, like that would crush me for like probably the next couple days after. But eventually I'd be like, all right, whatever. Like,
Dude,
Yeah.
I think
I hear that.
I've always wanted to try that sort of thing, but also part of me is like I have kind of like I don't know. I'm sure it's common. It's not like I have like severe stage fright, but I have stage fright for sure. I feel like when I have like a presentation even for school, like kind of shaky, my hands are shaking, my voice is a little shaky, I'm rushing a little bit. So it's one of those things where I feel like I'm not naturally confident as a speaker. I feel like I could be good if I, practice a lot. I feel like a part of the reason why I was always nervous in school when I was presenting is because I wouldn't practice a lot beforehand.
right.
So I'd get up there and I'd be like, I'm trying to remember what I wrote, and like I kind of did it last second and all. But if you're like there every night and you're practicing, I feel like
You'd probably be better.
I'd be okay.
But that's
know?
also what I was saying before.
Not saying
too.
that I'd be okay as a comedian. I'm just saying like as a speaker.
Right.
I don't
But
know.
that's also what I was saying before too, where it's like that's my thing, where it's like I don't have like stage fright if
Yeah.
it's just getting up there and just go. But that's what I was saying before about like the
Prepping
school
it.
presentation thing, where it's like when I'm going up there with a point, like
Yeah.
it's something I'm trying to like a goal I'm trying to achieve.
I gotta nail this.
That's
point.
what kind of like throws me off a little bit, and I know that's what would bug me about like trying
Sure.
stand-up comedy. Because again, throw me in front of I don't care how big a crowd. Matt rant about fucking comic books from the '90s, and I'll be like, buckle up, I'm your guy.
For me, it's the opposite. Like if it's just
You're,
Or, like,
you're,
even-
you're nervous in the unknown and like the spontaneous, like just make something up.
exactly.
But even
like
this-
if it's something that like
You can prep for it.
yeah, if,
But
if
even
you want
like
me
a
to make
live
presentation-
podcast,
yeah.
like if sorry to cut you off and then
No worries.
go, but
No,
if
no.
we were
So
if
shitty,
we were
yeah.
doing if we were ever gonna like obviously bigger podcasts do like live shows. If we were ever gonna do like a live podcast,
Oh, no problem.
that is such a cakewalk thought to me.
Oh no, like this. Yeah, but that's because it would be just this, but just people there.
But that's what I'm saying. What's like the idea of just getting in front of people of a
Yeah.
crowd and talking does not throw me off. What throws me off is getting in front of a crowd and like trying to achieve something and trying
yes.
to like be funny
You're
and
like-
get the
Oh, okay,
laugh.
okay,
That's the part that I know would like I start like getting like nervous and
well, because
shaky and shit.
you can't
because of the expectations.
Well, because
that's why.
also
Yes.
like when you have like a school presentation, there's no like aside from the teacher's feedback or whatever grade you get, there's no immediate feedback of how well you did.
Right.
People aren't cheering and people aren't jumping up and down when you make a point.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't feel that bad, even if you feel like you kind of messed it up a little bit afterwards. You're like, I'm sure it wasn't a big deal. But if you're a comedian and you're up there and you have one goal, which is to make people laugh, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah, the first joke you tell and they don't laugh, you're gonna be shaking.
And it immediately throws off because there's one presentation I gave in an English class in grade 9 at high school that still
cheered?
haunts me. No, because I just like got up there and panicked, and it was supposed to probably be like 5 minutes, and I think I finished in like, I don't even know if I hit 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I just
I've had that
blew
before.
through it, and it's like nobody made fun of me. Nobody was like being mean about it. Like it was, there was.
Why are you laughing?
Because it's hilarious, but there was no negative reaction.
How?
No, bro, I've done
prepped
that.
and it was 5 minutes, but you did it in one?
No, like I was like the time of the presentation was probably supposed to be like, hey, go up there and do your presentation for like 5 minutes. And I'm saying I probably did it in like a minute and a half.
So I'm asking you, did you prep for 5 and like did you practice and it was 5 minutes, or did you just like you didn't? Even
I don't
practice?
even remember. I think I practiced a little and it was longer, but I just got up there and got nervous and freaked out. But that's what I'm saying, where it's like getting up and having a point.
Was it the Wordle? Remember how we had to make a Wordle in grade 9?
Oh yeah, I remember that. You're talking about a word collage thing?
The word collage.
Yeah, with like of your name and your traits
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. Your traits.
I still have that somewhere. I think for the longest time, it still might have been like my Facebook profile picture. I don't even use Facebook, but it's on there, I think. But I was gonna say is that like I had a similar experience. I feel like I've had a similar experience presenting something like speaking, but I definitely remember this one time, and I told you about it, Patrick, where I had an essay, like the final paper of the semester. And it was like the longest paper I'd ever had to write.
Oh, it's your research.
That's right,
yeah.
My research paper, and it had to be like I think 8,000 to 10,000 words or something, or 8,000 to 12,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't even hit like 6. I submitted like 58.
Yeah, your professor still give you a good grade.
What?
No.
That's writing.
Oh,
He gave me like a 70 something, and said that your content was good and you had what you needed to have, but like it wasn't even close to the limit. Like, you were like multiple thousand off.
That's a little different because that's writing,
funny.
and like writing is something I always have been like relatively okay at, so it's like that hasn't but yeah, so I don't know, stand up, maybe one day I'll do it. We'll see what happens.
Dude, we should do it. We should all go to a comedy club and
maybe watch you guys, but I'm not gonna do shit.
No, I would. I'm saying this now just to say it, but I probably wouldn't do it. I'd be too scared. If I can't do karaoke,
I'm the least funny of all of us,
Yeah.
and I say that with my head up.
But also, I think that you're more like you're good at planning
I'm
stuff.
funny looking. Oh, sorry, yeah,
I'm saying like you're good at planning stuff and you're good at memorizing stuff and prepping for stuff like that. So I feel like, you know, if you had someone like helping you come up with ideas, like you might not be like, you know, coming up with like really funny ideas by yourself or whatever, but like it's kind of like I don't know if all comedians.
I don't even think I have like that charisma to me to be able to like tell a joke
but I think
in a way that flows, and
Maybe you.
I think there's different ways of doing it. Like there are definitely comedians who aren't the most charismatic people who like find ways of still like getting the joke across and being funny. It's just a thing of like just telling the joke and having it land.
You know who's like the most charismatic and who always blows me away every time I watch them is like, I already mentioned him, like Jerry Seinfeld. Like you can watch him like even at the beginning of Seinfeld episodes, he'll be like doing his bit or whatever, and he's just so on it and it's so smooth and everything is perfect. Like it's pinpoint perfect. It's crazy.
What's the deal?
Like some comedians are very like they'll kind of like especially if they're like self-deprecating. It's like, you know, raw emotion, and it might not be like very smooth, and it might not be like perfectly paced, and they're kind of like talking out of their heart, and they're just kind of like they're even like screaming, and it's more like, you know, jagged and raw, but like it still works, you know. But I feel like to me it's like that charisma, like Jerry Seinfeld just got it, you know.
To take us out here, because this ended up being longer.
Let's talk about our favorite
but
comedians.
It was a good.
You still want to talk about our favorite comedian?
Well, I was just gonna rattle some off quickly,
Let's
like for
go one at a time.
Why?
Let's go one at a time.
Just let him rattle.
I was just gonna rattle some off, and then just the only one I was gonna talk about was the big one.
But then you're gonna take ours.
He wants to talk about Carlin. That's why.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, Ricky Gervais, I'm a big fan of. Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, fucking on and on and on.
How dare you not say Tom Segura?
Tom Segura, Bert
How dare
Kreischer,
you not
Bobby
say
Lee,
Sebastian
Louis
Maniscalco?
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
Who the hell
Top
am I
5.
thinking of?
Sebastian Maniscalco.
Maniscalco. Who did we
Yeah.
mention there? Oh, Anthony Jeselnik.
Jeselnik.
yeah.
My
Big one.
Norm Macdonald, rest in peace.
Yeah.
I love Bill Burr.
Bill Burr.
I love
he's
Bill
so
Burr with
good.
all
Burr's
my
great.
heart, bro. He's so good.
But my number one all-time comic, which I won't belabor the point too much, Mr. George Carlin. He is, I think, one of those comedians that, like, when people talk about, like, oh, comedians being, like, these thinkers or whatever the hell. Like, somebody like Bill Burr will come out and be like, listen, I'm telling, like, shit and poop jokes. Like, I'm not, like, trying to, reinvent the fucking wheel here. But he's very good at the shit and poop jokes.
Mm-hmm.
George Carlin is somebody, though, where, like, especially as time has gone on, it's one of those things where, like, you look back on shit he was talking about in the 80s and 90s. And to me, he's one of those things, or one of those comedians where he's like, a lot of times when I'm watching his stuff, I'm not even laughing as much as I do at other comedians, but I'm infinitely more engaged because, like, what he's talking about, especially now in a lot of ways, is, like, so resonant that I'm like, even though, like, obviously he's hilarious, I'm laughing, but even when there's times that I'm, like, not laughing, I'm, like, genuinely thinking in a deep way about the shit he's saying and being like, huh, like, he's right on the money about, X, Y, or Z kind of thing. And I think in a lot of ways, like, time has only proven him even more correct.
We gotta listen to those vinyls. I wanna before I give them to you.
I gotta steal those too.
Dude, I don't know. This is like I love stand up. I just like this. I think
It's
back to so many
hilarious.
moments where we're just like laughing,
Oh my
crying,
god,
dude.
yeah. There's
God,
so many
so
good
amazing.
moments. And yeah, going to see Tom Segura live was awesome. We gotta do
Yes.
that again. We gotta do
Yes.
something.
Oh,
again.
that was one other thing we didn't get into, and I mean, we're running slightly longer here, but it's also only 3 topics today, so fuck it, who cares? But in terms of seeing stand-up comedy, because I've only ever seen the show we went to, which was Tom Segura and Bobby Lee opening for him, and then the only other comedy show I've ever been to, I think, and I don't
Bill
even know if
Burr?
you guys know. Oh, yeah, that would be 2. Is my dad and I went and saw Bill Burr, which was fucking awesome. But the third and only other one was this Canadian comedian named Sean Majumder,
No, never heard of
who
him.
he was on. He's done other TV stuff, but the thing I think he's most known for is this, like, political kind of sketch comedy show that used to be on CBC or whatever, called This Hour as 22 Minutes. And it was just like him and a bunch of other Canadian comedians. But he was really good live. He actually did the Art Center here in town. It was cool because, like, having seen him on this, like, CBC show for so long, I was like, he's funny, but he's also, like, clean and whatever. And then seeing him, like, live, not on, like, cable television, like, just being, like, totally dirty and raunchy and shit was hilarious.
What the hell does that mean?
What do you mean?
Clean versus dirty. What do you mean by dirty?
Like clean
Like,
comedians like don't swear.
Swearing and, like, inappropriate, like, stuff you
Oh.
wouldn't say on a cable
I-
network kind of
oh.
show.
I know for a fact Patrick was thinking like physically he looked unclean
Yeah.
versus like
But what was funny about that show was it was me and these 2 buddies of mine went, and we ended up being in the front row on, like, the floor section. So we were, like, at his feet. And as soon as we sat there, front row is a place you, like, never want to be at a stand-up show, because that's where you're getting fucking, like, picked on. And sure enough, like, when he was kind of doing a little bit of, like, crowd work in the night, he comes strolling over because we were on, like, the left side of the stage. He starts, like, he crosses the stage, and right away we're like, fuck, here we go. And he just came over and, like, started, like, making fun of us and whatever. But, like, it was cool because, like, he kept coming back to us. Like, there were 2 or 3 other times during the show where he would, like, come back to us and whatever the fuck I don't even remember. We'd be like, right, my fucking whatever, like, he called the 3 of us, like, right, my guys or whatever. We'd be like, yeah. And he, like, came and would do a fucking, like, what do you call it? Like a, what's it called? When everybody puts their fucking
Fist
hands
bump.
in
Oh,
and then they, like, break.
Yeah,
What's
I can't
that called?
remember. I can't remember.
I don't
what
think
it's
there's a
called.
word for
There
it.
is a word for it.
Am I having a stroke? Or
Mm.
like the huddle kind of thing,
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever the fuck it's called. This is a dumb story. But yeah, so, like, I'd like to see more stand-up comedy because it's good. Were there any comedians you guys wanted to rattle off quickly?
You
before
we
we
rattled
depart?
off
I'm
like
gonna-
a million.
I'm gonna throw out Theo Vaughn. I
Mm.
like Theo Vaughn as well. Dalia for sure, but I'm more so a fan of his like podcasting stuff as opposed to like his stand up per se. But I like Dalia. I mean, we'll throw out Chris Stefano.
Yes. Oh, I was about to say, yeah, he's a newer kind of
Yeah.
one that I've become a fan of.
Yeah. So yeah, love
Cool.
comedy.
Comedians.
Anyways, Mark, take it away.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I was about to say something where I noticed.
I'm sorry. Did you say Patrick? Take it away.
I noticed that every time you would do a transition, it would relate back to the last topic.
Oh.
But you just broke your streak.
Yes, I was kind of thinking about it. You know what I was going to say? Hold on.
And that's how I want to start doing it for myself.
All right, everybody pretend. I'm not going to cut this. Everybody just pretend we're starting the topic over again.
Okay.
Wow, Patrick, that was a great joke. You know, maybe you should consider doing stand-up comedy because that was a great joke you just told off air. Anyways, Mark, take it away.
I wish I didn't. Anyways, go on.
You didn't tell him that? So, I mean, I've been working in retail for the better part of 2 years now.
How do you like it?
How do I like it? I mean, it to me, it's a very convenient job to be like doing during school because like I work in a store that isn't particularly busy, and yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty easy job. Like I don't have much to complain about. You know, I get paid okay, and like it's pretty straightforward. But I also have to like interact with a lot of annoying people.
You can say scum.
Sure, scum.
Oh my goodness.
Scum of the earth. But there's one thing
We're releasing this.
I know, but
Okay.
there's one thing that happens quite often that I'm always baffled by and I never understand. And I need you guys to help me understand it and to also possibly talk about if you've had experiences that are similar.
Okay.
So I've had experiences where some guy would come up to me, and it's almost always a guy. I don't think it's ever been a woman, actually. Maybe once. But they'll come up to me, and they'll be like, hey, I have a question. And I'll be like, sure. And they'll take a step towards me, and then they'll take another step, and then they're in my face before they ask me the question. So they're like, I've talked about this before where, like, if the person like exhaled, I would feel it on my lip, you know? Like if they blew out with their nose, I would feel it on my bottom lip. So my topic is like social pet peeves, and specifically for me, it's people that talk too close to you.
Okay.
Because for me, I visibly like make sure I look upset so that they know that what they're doing is weird. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'll kind of like I'll take a step back. I'll take a clear step back, and I'll be like, yeah, like I'll kind of like be very like distraught by it for a second and take a step back, and then they'll take another step forward and they don't get it, and they'll just keep talking. They'll keep talking in my face, but they're not like threatening. You know, people get into your face and like be threatening.
Yeah.
But like they're nice, but they're unaware that what they think is uncomfortable.
You should take
Right.
a step back and then put your hand out and just be like,
hey,
but you don't even say anything. Just keep talking and just
hand on chest.
What are they gonna walk into your hand? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe it's because no one has ever told them that it's weird. But I also don't want to be the person to be like, hey, don't stand so close to
Is
me.
it possible that they're attracted to you?
Wow.
I doubt it. I mean, there's been multiple cases where it's like an old guy, like an old man.
Same question.
Closeted man.
Closeted
Same
man.
question. Are
But
they
yeah,
attracted
so
to you?
anyway, to me, it's like I don't get it, and they get way too close, and I'm not sure what to say because as someone who works in retail, I can't be like, oh, like you're standing too close, like get away from me, because then they can complain and it's the whole thing.
Right.
Generally, I feel like outside of work, I might be open to saying that, like, oh, like back up a little bit.
Yeah,
Or-
but why do you have to say anything? Why can't it be the case that you step back and put your hand out, kind of thing?
I think a
And
hand.
just be subtle.
I
Just
think
be like,
I think a handout is kind of like threatening a little bit. It's like it's like you're taking a stance.
Back up. You better back up.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to ask you guys if you've ever had a similar experience, A, and then B, if there are other social pet peeves you want to talk about, because I'll throw out a couple more as well.
I haven't dealt with that specific thing. Like I can't think of that
Really?
sticking out to me and being an instance. Like I've had personal space issues of like people not understanding
Like by doing what?
boundaries. Like just people who like get too close to you, or people who are like touchy feely. Like nothing. It weirds me out when I'm not in like an inappropriate way, but it's like it annoys me, or it's weird if I'm like talking to somebody that I don't know. Like if I'm having a conversation with them and they'll like put like a hand on my shoulder or something, like while they're talking to me, like, you know, blah, 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 blah.
oh my god. Oh
I'm
my
like,
god.
get away from me. I'm like, I don't know you. Like, we don't have any sort of rapport
Yeah.
like this. Like, why are you? I'm very mindful about like being the fuck away from everybody else. So it's like when somebody doesn't mind their personal space and they are more like
You know what you should do?
like touching, I'm like, get lost.
You know what you should do? If someone touches your shoulder like that, you should like pretend to be like really turned on. Like
Oh
they,
my god.
Like they touch your shoulder and you kind of like you look at them, you like breathe heavy and you're like you like bite
Yeah, I was
you like
gonna
but you like
say.
kind of bite you like half bite your lip.
Do I let out a little like?
Yeah.
I told
Oh.
Mark this story, and I can't believe this is a real story, but
Sure.
I was outside of U of T,
Mm.
St. George, not UTM.
Mm-hmm.
So
Why is that a
Thank you
distinction
for
you're
clarifying.
making? Who cares where it was?
Because he'll claim he went to
'Cause I'm
UFT,
I'm trying
but
to
he
take-
didn't
I'm trying to
really
take
go
myself.
UFT.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like
so,
in
this,
the- in
so this
the-
isn't for them. It's for you.
This is for me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I was walking outside, like near the campus there in Toronto, right?
St. George.
Mm.
And I stop in front of this one building. It's like the mineral engineering building.
Oh
or
yeah, you told me
something.
about this. Okay.
Yeah, I stopped in front of the mineral engineering building. I didn't have data at the time, so I was like connected to school Wi-Fi, and I was putting a Starbucks order down the street. And like I'm putting in my order, and I hear "Inta Masri." It's like this just someone saying, "Are you Egyptian?" Right? And I hear it in Arabic.
That's Arabic.
It's
by the way.
Arabic,
Mm.
right? So I hear it in Arabic, and I don't look up. I'm just like my own business. I hear this, and now it's in English. Are you Egyptian? And I look up. This is random Egyptian guy, and I go, "Yeah, are you?" He goes, "Yeah." How are you liking Canada? And I'm like,
He in his head he's like, you're new here also.
How are
I'm
you
like,
liking
I've been here for a while. I like it.
Does he think that anyone who's Egyptian is new here?
Mhm.
Like he doesn't think anyone is. No one is Egyptian and has lived here their whole life.
Mhm.
That's not possible.
So I go, "Yeah, I like it. Like, do you like it?" He's like, "Yeah, I love it so much." And he was like, and we take this whole tangent of like, "Oh, when did you get here? Where are you? Like, where's your family from in Egypt?
What's
this
your
whole-
what's your social insurance?
What's your SIN number? SIN? I mean, I always do that."
I think I know what
Social
your
insurance
pet peeve,
number.
like what you're about to get to is the pet peeve, and if not, you've sparked one in me. So I'll get to it. But please go on.
So we're talking, and I kid you not, as we're talking, he hugs me with both his arms.
Oh,
Wrapped
that's
around.
not where I was
And I
going.
still have my phone in my hand trying to do my Starbucks order, and he hugs me, and I guess I put one of my arms like around his back,
Yeah.
and
Just
then
to see your phone, so you can just keep ordering.
but yeah, he hugs me, and then he lets go, and he goes, "If you ever need anything, I'm in the second floor of this mineral engineering building."
Well, this sounds like a nice guy.
Oh my god!
But you know what it is? A lot of
yeah.
people in your position,
Yeah.
especially if they have any sort of like, I don't know why I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of Joe Rogan
Mm.
because I've seen there's been clips of him online of like someone like trying to be overly friendly with him and like trying to wrap their arms around, and he kind of like shoves them. He'll give them a shove like back up too. Like
Wow.
if that guy tried to hug you, if he tried to hug someone else who wasn't as
The wrong
friendly as you,
person, yeah.
they might get physical with him and like punch him,
Oh, yeah.
push
Right.
him,
Like
whatever.
it could have gone.
Sure, yeah.
Could have gone
Which I don't
wrong.
even blame. I wouldn't blame you if you said I pushed him and he fell over because if someone like that's you didn't ask for that. That's like assault. He's just hugging you. He's just randomly
It's
hugging
crazy. I don't know you. I don't know him, and for some
That's
reason,
what I was
there's
saying.
this like spark that he felt between us. I guess. I don't
But that's
know.
what I was saying a second ago, where it's
Bro,
like with the
back
whole
up.
like personal space thing. Yeah, of like just like listen, like don't touch me. Like
Yeah.
get your
Oh,
body
dude.
away from me.
Can I just say I was at a dentist once, and I've told you this before.
Oh God, I remember
and
this.
and the dentist like. He was apparently like a family friend or something like that. I didn't know him. I mean, I'd seen him multiple times before. I wasn't very good at like keeping up with the dentist and like going often like early on in high school, and that's why I had a lot of like cavities and shit leading up like out of high school. So now I'm actually taking care of my teeth, and I switched dentists since. But originally I was with this guy, and one time he was doing some sort of, I think he was doing a root canal for me, and like on multiple different occasions during the root canal, he dropped like a little like stint in my mouth. And it was like this little, or like a little needle or something. And he's like, don't swallow. And it's like in the, and it's like in the back of my throat. And I'm so terrified. I'm like, shit. And he's like fishing it out with his fingers.
oh no.
He gets it. And he's like, sorry, I'm so sorry, whatever. I'm like, okay, it's all good. And then like a minute later, he drops it again.
That's all. That's
the
all.
fuck is
Again.
up with this
Yeah,
guy?
yeah.
Butterfingers.
And I was like, I kept thinking like, what happens if like, you know when someone tells you not to think of something and you can't help but think about it.
Yeah.
I was like, if he's telling me not to swallow, I'm gonna like gulp.
yeah, just take the
Yeah, yeah.
biggest swallow you've ever taken.
Yeah. And so anyway,
dying.
yeah. Anyway, before all that, that's like the main reason I switched. But another reason I switched as well is his like is his strange, aside from like shaky hands over there. I think that like it was his very weird, like, I'm not gonna say oversharing, but his like he didn't understand physical boundaries.
Mm.
Like in the beginning of one of my appointments that I went to him, he was like asking me about like my girlfriend or something, and he's like, "Oh, are you still dating this person?" Because I think I'd mentioned to him that I'm in a relationship or whatever. Because he was
Mhm.
asking me like, "Oh, are you dating?" Whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
why he was asking that. None of his business. So I think I told him something about how like, "Oh, I'm not with them anymore" or something like that. This is like years ago. And then he was like, "Oh, okay." Well, he's like an old Egyptian dude too, so he's kind of like against dating for young people, especially if it's not going to be like for marriage or whatever. So he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's good, it's better anyway, or whatever." Like, whatever. I was like, "Okay, dude, whatever." And then like as he's giving me like the he like gives me the needle before surgery. I say surgery, but it's like probably like a root canal or something. And he gives me the needle to numb my gums. And then he's kind of like, for a moment I'm laying down and he's like he's like kind of stroking my head. Like he's kind of like patting my forehead and like stroking it, being like, calm down, you're good. And I was like, well, I'm not anxious, so I don't know why you're doing this. And he's doing that. And then I swear to God, I'm not lying about this. He bent down and both lips touched my head. He kissed my forehead. and last thing, I could have sworn he also said I love you.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah,
You've told the story multiple times. It's the first time
He's like
this is the first time hearing of the lips, but every single time you said that he said I love you.
Yeah.
That's the part I remember.
And honestly, I was so weirded out. I think I don't know what I said. I don't think I said I love you back. I don't know if he was offended by that.
He was like,
Thank
I love
you.
you. And you were like, yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah. So anyway, he proceeded to almost kill me twice. So
Pet peeves, people who almost kill you.
yeah. So that guy to me like is the epitome of not understand. He did.
Kissed you.
He did. Yeah.
What
yeah.
the fuck?
He straight up kissed my forehead. Yeah.
What in the name
Bro,
of God?
my parents don't do that shit. and he did it.
Oh my God.
For pet peeves, for what you were talking about earlier, Patrick, where I thought it was going to go, and one for me is like small talk generally is a pet peeve for me,
Yeah.
but
What do you mean?
people who don't know when to end a conversation is such a fucking
my
pet
God,
peeve for me.
it's so
Like when you're talking
painful.
to somebody and like things have clearly died out, or like if I'm like in the middle of doing something and I'm like talking to you and then I like start to like turn away or
Yeah.
make my way towards the door or like go back to my laptop to like do something, and then they're like, yeah, so anyways, and they just like try to keep the conversation
Yeah.
going.
You
I'm
know
like,
what-
can't we just
What's-
let this
what's
fizzle
worse,
out?
You know what's worse for me is like you were indicating like a physical sign of ending the conversation. There's times where like I verbally am like, all right, so I guess I'm gonna, and then they like
Yeah,
keep
like
going.
yeah, like
and
I'm
it's
gonna
the
get
worst.
back to
It's
this
like,
kind of
oh,
thing.
okay.
You know what I was
like-
gonna say
yeah.
is that to me there's a very simple out for that, and I was gonna say something.
Go away.
No, but like even like a pretty respectful way of like kind of what Patrick was saying, where it's like, all right, man, well listen, like I'll see you around, and then like leaving and like straight up walking away.
Well, that's I guess the leaving part helps. But that's what I was saying, because even Patrick's saying about the verbal thing. It's like that's where I've been in conversations with people. Like if I'm like sitting at a table,
Yeah.
like working on my laptop and like talking to somebody, and then I will say the thing of like, all right, anyways, like I'm gonna get back to this thing or whatever. And they're like, yeah, and then they just like linger for a second. And then like keep talking. And I'm like, but I just told, like I just gave you the polite out of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this conversation is over. Like
Well,
maybe I'm lying to you and I don't have anything to do, but I'm
Yeah.
saying that instead of saying what I want to say of like be gone from me.
yeah, but also it's like most people would understand that. The vast majority of people would understand that and like just go away. They'd be
Yeah.
like, well, this guy's
Right.
either he's actually busy or like he just wants to stop talking now, and that's okay. And then they leave.
Right.
But some people, they just don't get it, and they're just like,
Mhm.
it's no problem. He wants to talk anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't mind. I'm sure he doesn't.
They're
mind
like, yeah,
talking.
you keep typing that paper while I stand here
Yeah.
talking at you, and it's like, no, that's not what that's not what this
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah, I know someone like that in particular who's like, whatever this person says, and I can't be specific about who it is, but whatever this person says is always to me just like absolute dog shit. He just says nonsense, and like, or she.
You kind of revealed your
Yeah, I did.
hand. You revealed your hand there.
But I'll just kind of be like, for sure. Like
Yeah.
I'll say the very key words of like, oh cool, dude, or I'll be like, and now I'm saying it's a guy. I'm saying it's a guy, and then I'll be like, yeah, I don't know, man. And I'll just kind of like walk away,
right,
and like that'll be my thing.
right.
And so like, yeah.
But so yes, that's one pet peeve. I feel like I have so many pet peeves because I'm a bit of a hate-ass hater. It kind of goes into the like loosely the etiquette topic I had a couple weeks ago about like just people in public, and it's like there are so many things that frustrate me about like in you were saying social settings, people who are dirty or don't like pick up after themselves or like clean shit up.
Oh, dude, the amount of times in the store people will be trying on like shoes, and I swear to God they'll leave like 8 pairs on the floor, out of the boxes, the stuffing paper everywhere. There's try-on socks. You can try on them with these thin nylon socks.
Yeah.
People just leave their dirty socks on the floor, and then
They take the nylon socks?
like no, they'll just leave them on the bench.
Oh, okay.
Like they're kind of like very thin, like they're kind of like
Are they like you're supposed to take with you the
they're
socks?
just like you're supposed to throw them out. They're like
Oh,
they're just like
okay.
they're like kind of like
Disposable.
disposable ones. So people will try on a bunch of socks. Like the other day, me and my sister manager were like helping these people, and they had like maybe 6-7 pairs of shoes on the floor, and like boxes everywhere. And then they were kind of like walking around, like they were done trying them on, And so my assistant manager went up to them and was like, "Hey, like, do you guys need to try on these? Like, are you done trying these on? Or like, are you still trying?" They're like, "No, we're good," and they just walked out. Like, I was like, I can't believe people exist that are like that. That's just like so.
6 pairs of shoes on the floor,
Bro, they didn't even try to clean it up or put it back in the boxes. Like, it was just like, it was almost as if they're like, "Oh, this is your guys' job, so like, get to it."
That's, you know what it is?
Chop.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it now, is that this does tie more directly than I thought into my etiquette topic, where to me it's just like, I go through life not even in like a confrontational way, like, because I am very unconfrontational, but it's like I go through life trying to be as like out of the way and like not a nuisance or annoying to people as possible. And like a lot of my pet peeves stem from people
Who don't do
that. Like another big one for me is it's like people walking around with music playing out loud in public.
Lord.
Is such an annoying thing, especially in an enclosed space.
Yeah.
Like if you're on like a fucking bus or a train or something, like it doesn't happen often,
Yeah.
but every once in a while, especially if it's like a quieter train ride, like if I'm going to Toronto and there's somebody sitting with their music playing, or even if it's just they're watching like a YouTube video or, TikTok or some Instagram thing, whatever the hell they're watching. But when they have shit going out loud at the loudest possible volume, it's such an annoying, like, can't you just get headphones?
You know what I think? I think with maybe with videos it's different, but with music I've always gotten the sense that it's people kind of being like, maybe it's kind of like half of like, oh, like look at me, like an attention thing.
Yes.
And then also second half of it being like, what I'm listening to is good shit. People are gonna want it. People are gonna like what they're hearing. And so, like, people are going to be cool with hearing this. It's not like I'm playing something that's stupid.
Yes.
So they just do it as if, like, people are going to, be like, oh, this person's cool. They listen to cool music. And B, like, they have good taste,
Right. Even though like 90% of the time, I would rather be listening to some chooch playing music out loud instead of random TikTok videos. The people doing the TikTok videos, at least, are just dumb.
Yeah.
Whereas the music people, it's exactly what you're saying, where it's half a thing of like, hey, look at me. Yeah. And it's also half a thing of like, yeah, I'm playing like really good music, so everybody should hear this.
Yeah,
everybody
you're welcome.
wants to hear this. And and to me it's like, listen, I'm such a rock and roll dork. I love rock and roll so much. I want everybody to listen to rock and roll. But it's like I'm not walking down the street with fucking Rush or some, 10-minute Pink Floyd song or Stairway to Heaven out of a freaking loud ass speaker of like, everybody should be checking this shit out.
You know what that's like? That's like someone walking around with like a phone playing like The Office or something.
Yes.
And they're showing it to you as they're walking by, like like this is a piece of content, this is media, this is entertainment, and like you're not choosing to watch it, you didn't select it. But like I'm gonna just walk by and you're gonna have to experience it.
Yes.
You have to.
It drives me nuts. And it's like I'm saying, where it's, again, same thing. If I'm taking a train ride to the city, if I like bring my Switch with me, for example, especially lately, with all the Zelda-ing I've been doing. But it's like, I will bring the Switch. Maybe I don't want to bring headphones and lug those around too. So I'm not sitting there on the train with Zelda blaring at max volume. I have the Switch at the lowest or like second lowest volume possible.
How dare you?
So that there's sound coming out of it that is for me and me only. But I'm not forcing, the guy finishing his fucking 9-to-5 job and the mom with her kid to also sit there and listen to me fucking fighting demons and shit or whatever I'm doing in my Zelda thing. Like it's just so inconsiderate and annoying of like, why do you think everybody else wants to hear what you're listening to?
Yeah, super obnoxious and very like very, very socially unaware. But to me it's like, if you guys don't mind, I want to bring up a different social pet peeve. Another one for me is people who don't know how to like adjust their voice levels to where they are. Like oftentimes we'll have people that come into the store and they'll be like yelling and the store's empty, it's like very quiet, and they're like yelling to each other, like having a conversation. Like, yeah, that was like they're like having a very loud conversation, and they don't realize that we're there. There are people there, and like it's very obnoxious to yell and like have a very loud. So it's like you don't adjust based on who's around you, like where you are. Like there's no indoor voice, outdoor voice. It's just like at all times, just like we're loud.
I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I don't know if Patrick agrees or not with me, but where Patrick and I work, it's kind of, I find it's the opposite, where the place we're at is particularly loud
People
sometimes.
are too quiet.
And I find that like people will come in and be like,
hey guys, could you tell me to the
Yeah,
nearest
yeah.
thing?
I'm like, what are you saying? And they're like,
Could you guide me? Do I have to go down this hallway?
I'm like,
Yeah.
what the? I'm like, speak up. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Like, so I get what you're saying, but almost in the reverse sense. But
Mm.
Patrick, do go on.
Just to build like in a similar vein, not volume, but like what is being said.
Mm.
So when it's like a couple
Yeah.
and they're like having an argument
I was like
in
deeply
a very
like,
public place,
like they're airing their dirty laundry. in
they're
front of
airing their
everybody.
dirty laundry, or it's like they're not being subtle whatsoever. I'm not even talking about like PDA. I'm just literally talking about arguments or like TMI, like just in front of everybody.
Right.
I don't know why people are very comfortable. Many people are very comfortable talking about deep personal issues and physical ailments. Like whatever's going on, they'll talk about it. Like I've had many people being like, "Yeah, like my grandson passed away the other day," and I'm like, "Oh,
wow.
wait, what?"
Oh my goodness.
Like, listen, I'm sorry, but like I don't
don't
see
wanna-
how
I
this is
don't
something
wanna
I
know
should be
this.
knowing.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'm
Granny,
sorry
get
for your
outta here.
loss, but I don't care.
I don't
Yeah.
care. Do you want the fucking shoes or not?
Yeah.
Listen, I work on commission, so if me
I-
caring
I-
is gonna get this done.
I actually don't, which is unfortunate.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like there's an endless list of just annoying shit
That people do.
that people do. That
All right, I'm gonna go through my list. I have a couple more written down. I
Please.
don't know
Go
if you guys
for it.
have any in.
I say that where I'm like, there's so many, and I'm like sitting here and I'm like,
I can't really
kind of drawing a blank, but like I know there are things that people do.
Yeah. And with
That
the whole
just-
yeah.
You know.
People, I've had people correct me before I even finish my sentence.
Mm.
Like before I finish saying what I'm gonna say, they'll
Is that me?
No, I don't know. I'm not saying anyone in particular. I'm just
Okay.
saying I've had people. I'm thinking of a person. One time I was telling them something,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah. So this is what I think about. Like I just started saying like half my point, and they're like, no. And I'm like, wait, you don't even know where I was gonna go with that.
That sounds like me.
Another thing I have is we already talked about these: speaking too loud, not speaking loud enough, standing too close. Oh, not looking at you at all.
Oh.
Like I've
yeah.
had some people where I don't know if it's just because they're like very. I find that sometimes I can be kind of socially awkward, so like sometimes I kind of struggle making eye contact with people.
Yeah.
But like some people I'll be having a conversation with and they just don't look at me at all. They're like looking down the whole time,
Yeah.
and it makes me very uncomfortable. I'm like,
Are you about to
like,
stab
should
me?
I be
or-
here? Or like
Some people have said to me
your eye contact is uncomfortable.
that it's too much. Some people like where I've been talking to somebody and I'm just like looking at them, we're having a conversation and they're like, stop looking at me.
I don't
It's
think
like,
They're the problem.
What do you mean?
I
You're
don't-
not the problem.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
the problem.
I think you have a healthy eye contact level, and I think that for me, like oftentimes, even now, you'll see like I'll be talking to you guys and I'll look off,
Yeah.
or I'll look down.
Yeah.
But like to me, like having strong eye contact is better than being like one of these weirdos who's like looking off the whole time and talking to you like this the whole time. And it's like be a person, dude.
To be
Yeah.
fair to them though, sometimes I do this thing where if like
You're
they,
pondering.
if they say something they think is funny, or if it's like
Mm.
where it's something where it's like there's silence and they're like waiting for me to say something, I just like give them a look and like just like
You're
give them an
thinking.
intense thing. Like I'm not even thinking, it's just like I'm kind of communicating with my eyes almost in a sense.
Yeah. I've
Um,
seen that. You're just like you're kind of like pondering and you're kind of like like but
Yeah.
you're like just staring.
Yeah.
Part of that with the like lack of eye contact thing too goes into a pet peeve being like just people being on their phones and shit too.
Sure.
Drives me nuts. Of like when you're trying to talk to somebody
Oh, dude.
and they're like
I'm sorry for whenever
Dude,
I've
people-
done
I over
People-
time have just straight up given up with my mom. And mom, well, she's not gonna listen to this. She doesn't love me. She doesn't.
that. She doesn't love me.
She does. I'm kidding. But like my mom, I love her to death. Both my parents, to be real, they cannot multitask in the sense of like looking at something on their phones and taking in any other information.
Stimulus.
Because my mom will be like looking at some like Facebook thing or whatever, and she'll be like, "Hey, like how's it going? How's your day or whatever?" And I'll start talking to her, and I know nothing is registering, and there will be like usually one of three things happens. Either A, she's like just sort of nodding along like yeah, blah blah blah, and like I know she's not paying attention. Option 2 is I'll just like give up halfway through and just stop talking.
Yeah.
I've
She
done
and
that.
She doesn't
I just-
notice.
I just straight up stop talking, and yeah, then to me it's the coin toss of like what's gonna, and every once in a while she'll notice and be like, you know, oh, like you were saying kind of, and then she pays attention.
You know what?
Or she just doesn't
Yeah.
say anything, and just the conversation is
You,
just done
you
right
know what?
there.
You know what drives me crazy is that I feel like oftentimes the people who are criticizing the whole, this generation with their phones, like the older people, like the parents, the grandparents, they're equally as bad with it. And I'll be talking to like my manager at the store, and he has his phone, and he's just like, I'm like saying something, and he like doesn't even, like, he's right beside me, and I'm like, yeah, have you seen this movie yet? Down on his phone, he didn't even hear a word, and I just walk away.
Yeah.
So like to me, it's like, it's kind of hypocritical of like certain, like, I don't know.
The idea that like there are generations older than ours that act like, oh, these kids are rotting their brains on their phones and shit.
But to me,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so are you guys. Like,
Yeah.
my thing is, it's not a generational thing. It's just either you are on your phone constantly or you aren't.
But also, I find that some younger generation, like some younger kids, like our age, teenagers and stuff, like they're better at multitasking. Like I don't know. To me, it's like my girl's pretty good at it, and she'll like, when I'm telling her something, sometimes I feel like she's not paying attention for a second, and then I'm like, did you hear what I said? And she rattles it off like word for word verbatim. She's like, yeah, and like you said this, and then you said that, and then like I agree with you. And and to me, it's like, obviously I'd prefer to be like not on the phone at all, but it's cool to like, I'm not very good at multitasking, but it seems like a lot of younger people are, I guess.
If you can prove to me that you can multitask, and like while I'm talking to you about a thing, you can also be sending a text, and like you can do both those things, then fine. But it's just, there are like people in my life that I know, again, shout out my parents.
They're not getting any of it.
Whom I love dearly, where it's like they just simply cannot be reading something on their phone or like watching a video on their phone and also having any sort of conversation.
I feel like Patrick is like that.
Patrick definitely falls into that.
I feel like I've been trying to tell. I'll be like, yeah. So what do you think about that? And you're like, yeah, just give me 1 second. And you'll be sending like a very simple text.
The
Bro, you
difference-
can't think and text.
The difference
No, I have to
is
send a text first.
the
bro.
difference is with Patrick, it's like if he's reading something or texting, but the difference is Patrick will be like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure.
he'll acknowledge
As
it.
opposed to just like Patrick just nodding along, and then I'm like, yeah, so did you get all that? And he's like, no. Like, I would rather him be like, give me a second than just like fake it till he makes it kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Also, how do you guys feel about that Pulp Fiction scene where Mia is talking about like uncomfortable silences, and she's like, when you feel like, I think you found the right person when you can like share an uncomfortable silence, and like why do people feel like they have to fill in space with like nonsense and bullshit like all the time?
I
Like,
like it being silent sometimes.
yeah,
honestly.
because to me it's like, sometimes, because I always want my time to be filled with stuff going on and things being said, I get uncomfortable by the silence. Again, like with my girl, like I'll be like hanging around, and like I feel like sometimes we're not talking the whole time, but like afterwards I'll be like, oh, like, are you all right? Like, you're kind of quiet. She's like, oh no, I'm just like comfortable, I'm chilling. Like, like I don't like, we don't always have to be saying something, where it's, to me it's like, if something isn't being said, then something's wrong. Like I have to there's always to be something being said between everybody, like if I'm hanging around you guys, like it might feel weird if there's like no talking for a very long time, and I'm like, what's going on?
There's this weird thing that happens sometimes where
Okay.
I'm on the phone with Maddie, and we're just like not talking for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just
That's
like,
just-
I'm waiting for him to say something, he's waiting for me
That's
to say
just like a
something.
you and me thing. Well, you'll call and be like, hey, what's up? And I'll be like, oh, nothing much. And you'll be like, yeah, I'm on my way from home from school or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, cool.
And I'm just like driving.
And we'll like
and it's
talk
just,
for
like,
another, and
I've
we'll
done that
like
with you
talk
before.
for another
Yeah,
couple
that
minutes,
happens
and then you'll just like, and then we just
I'll-
kind of stop, and then it's
Yeah.
just on the
you know
phone.
What, what's weird? I feel like for some reason, and it's not for any particular reason, but I just never really. Sometimes I'll call Patrick just to like sit on the phone a little bit, like just like doing nothing, like talking about nothing in particular.
Yeah.
But like, I almost feel more hesitant to do that with you, Matty, because I feel like if I were to call you, you'd be like, well, like, what do you want? Like, what are we doing?
That's that wonderful reputation
Like-
like built up.
Like, I just feel like I love you. I want to just be like like chit chatting with you about nothing. But sometimes I feel like if I have nothing to offer you, you're gonna be like all right, I guess I'll see you.
Get the hell out of my face.
Yeah, like we're done.
If you guys every once in a while when you guys do call me like that, like I don't mind it necessarily, but it like it's more a thing of like I don't call you guys in that instance. Like I don't
Sure.
call you guys unless I've got like
Yeah.
something to ask you or something
Well,
to
that's
say
what-
or
that's
something to
why-
talk about. I don't call you guys just for
Just
the
to shoot
sake
the
of like
shit.
shooting
Well,
the shit.
that's
really.
why I guess I feel more comfortable as well with Patrick. Me doing that to Patrick because he does that to me all the time.
Right.
He'll just
Yeah.
call me and be like, hanging out.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm a bit of a schmuck. Well, I guess if we're satisfied here with
Yeah,
this,
we're
the
good.
last pet peeve I was going to toss out, and this is a big one for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Wow.
Dude, you know what?
Bold to do that.
You know what's crazy?
Very bold.
A second
yeah.
before he said that, I was like, he's gonna.
That was very bold.
And cut that.
Are you gonna cut that or are you gonna keep
It's
it?
getting censored to high hell.
Oh wow. Okay.
All right, Patrick, make sure to make eye contact. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I would like to discuss with you boys is something more scientific.
Oh God. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
You did a science program.
I did. And I'm gonna be a science teacher.
So it's sort of a pretty rapidly growing field of how sort of mental health manifests in the body. And today I'd like to specifically talk about why are you giving me that
I don't
smile?
know.
Today I just want to talk about how specifically stress
Mm.
manifests in the body in some of the seminal sort of studies.
Salmon.
What?
Seminal.
Why can't I just get a sentence out without
I
like
don't know. I'm sorry.
the seminal works, I guess, in the field of stress
Mm.
that have sort of shed light on how it sort of manifests in the body.
I looked over at Matty and he was like, He's like trying to be like interested.
Trying to be interested. But yeah, so I'm gonna just rattle off a few studies and we can talk about it if you guys want. Or
So
if you guys
just
want to. Yeah.
For my own stupid brain, you're talking about stress
Manifesting. in the body.
physically manifesting.
Physically
Like,
manifesting
your
in the
hair
body.
goes white and shit.
For example, but that's not one of the examples I have. But like
Okay.
along those veins, yes.
Right.
I feel
okay.
like that. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So this first study done by a researcher with the last name of Blackburn, I can't remember her first name at the moment. She studied caregivers of disabled children, and she found that caregivers of so this isn't just with disabled children, people who are caregiving, whether it's to someone who has Alzheimer's or again disabled children, they tend to have more rapid aging observed in them, and it's related to, and we talked about this before, telomeres.
Okay.
So
Like the ends of chromosomes.
so telomeres are what sort of they're involved in the DNA or in cell replication,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically pulling your DNA, and it interacts with your DNA during cell replication.
Mm.
So they found that telomerase are directly linked to the length of life. Okay, so that's something that's been known. And group therapy for these people led to an increase of this protein.
Like telomeric length.
Sorry?
Like it increased their telomere length.
It increased the activity of this thing called telomerase,
Oh, the enzyme.
the enzyme that is involved in the maintenance of these telomeres.
That's cool.
So
But by maintenance,
Yeah.
there's like, because you were talking about like, is it that the length is correlated to stress or to like
aging.
aging? So like
Yeah.
longer telomeres means less aging or like slower aging.
Yes, exactly.
And
Exactly.
so
the shorter they get, yeah.
so telomerase helps maintain like a proper length.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's in the maintenance of maintaining the structure of telomeres.
And remind me, like a telomere is like, is it just like the top end or like the tips of the chromosome?
Or
Where is it?
So in the cell, telomeres are the strands at the both poles of the cell that reach to grab the DNA
Mm.
and then pull them to each respective pole, and then the
Mm.
cells.
Mitosis.
Exactly.
Mm.
So that was one work
Mm.
to show like, yeah, so stress, and like in this population that experiences a lot of stress with regards to their caregiving, they're aging faster, but it can be circumvented, which is kind of cool. The next one, a study done on people who lived through the Dutch famine. They found that people who were pregnant, specifically during the Dutch famine,
Oh yeah, I've heard this one. Sorry,
you've
go
heard
ahead.
this one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So prenatal stress leads to offspring who are more likely to have weakened immune systems
Mm.
and be more susceptible to physical and mental illness. So
So basically, if the
Yeah.
mother went through some shit, then
Yeah,
like
exactly.
oftentimes the kid have like lasting effects. from that.
and
Crazy.
the Dutch famine happened in the end of World War II, so 1944 to 1945.
And it's like
And
an
they found
that's like an epigenetic thing, right?
I couldn't speak to the epigenetics of it, but I wouldn't be
Because I think
surprised if that's sort of
Mm.
playing into it.
because the reason I say that is because in my epigenetics class, like that's where they brought it up
Yeah.
of like the kind of like lasting modifications made on the
Mhm.
person's DNA from
Yeah.
all that stress or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was from the mid 1940s, but they found consistent results with people in Canada actually after the Quebec freezing blackout. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
What's
that
that?
incident.
The one from a couple of years ago,
I
or is this another thing?
I think this was in the between 2000 and 2010, like in that era. So yeah, it's been documented multiple times is what I'm trying to say. But more so like actual like physical manifestations now. This researcher named Carol Shively, who does work on macaque monkeys. And do you guys know what macaque monkeys are?
No.
They're just a species of primate that similar to many monkey species, they have hierarchies.
Okay.
So there's dominant and there's subordinate macaque monkeys, and they found that dominant macaque monkeys have cleaner arteries, and the subordinates were more prone to getting atherosclerosis. I'm so bad at pronouncing
That's
that
a
word.
big word.
It's basically a condition where your arteries are sort of getting clogged, like
Right.
the diameter is getting shorter because of like
Gunk.
because of for lack of
Well,
better
too
word,
much gack- too
we'll
much
call
gack-
it gunk.
Too
Yeah,
much gack in there.
Too much.
exactly. So basically, what this demonstrated was social stress can lead to cardiovascular risk.
Right.
Subordinate monkeys showed decreased dopamine activity as well compared to dominant ones. So they're literally not as happy.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's, in my opinion, was sort of really cool to read about, where it's like, and I'm going to get to humans in just a moment, but it's one of those things where it's like, even like social dynamics, like feeling stress from, just talking with people, or maybe perceiving like, oh, did that go well? Or does this person think, ill will of me? Like something along those lines. Just like social interactions can physically like manifest and put you at risk for.
It's the kind of thing of like if you're worrying and anxious 24/7, it's gonna have a physical toll on you. You're gonna feel exhausted.
100%. Yeah.
And feeling exhausted for a prolonged period of time, for even like weeks straight of just feeling exhausted all the time, I'm sure that's like that probably goes into like you aging faster as well, because your body's just so spent all the time.
Yeah. And before I get to the human research, just one more monkey one.
Sure.
He actually did work on monkeys and mice or rats. This guy named Robert Sapolsky worked with baboons, and he found that the rank in the baboons' hierarchy correlated with the level of stress hormones in their blood. Okay? And he found that lower ranking baboons had higher heart rates and blood pressure, and that
I don't know why that's funny.
Monkeys
had
with
higher
blood pressure.
And your blood pressure's a little high there.
The
buddy.
idea of a monkey in a doctor's office with a thing around his arm.
Yeah. And he found that chronic exposure to stress hormones can do something as implausible as kill brain cells. So he found less volume in those with higher rates of stress hormones circulating in your blood. Found
like the socially lower ones.
Exactly, the lower ranked baboons.
Interesting.
And he did this is just a side note. He found that actually that it's not relevant. We can talk about that another time.
Okay.
But yeah, so we've talked about brain cells. We've talked about your arteries getting clogged. We've talked about being more susceptible to mental illness. Lastly, this huge study called the Whitehall study, which was done in London, I believe. They looked at 2,800 government workers who had equal access to healthcare, and that's important to note because that's a control that they had in their study.
Sure.
They found that the lower you were in the hierarchy of like where you were in the like job wise,
socioeconomic,
socioeconomic, and your position in the government, like your government job.
Oh, these are all government workers.
These are all government workers, yeah. So the lower you were in the hierarchy, the higher your risk of heart disease was. And yeah, they found that position in the hierarchy translated to how much abdominal fat you put on, because stress influences how your body deposits fat, such that higher rates of stress makes it that so that you, for whatever reason, are inputting more fat, depositing more fat in the abdominal area.
It's not being dealt with as efficiently.
Yeah. And lastly, oh, sorry, I lost my place here, boys. Forgive me.
You are forgiven, my son.
My child.
My child.
I love you, my child.
Yeah, so they found that when people were given more control in the workplace, they sort of relieved that stress was sort of relieved a little bit, and it reduced health risks associated with
That makes
their
sense.
position in the hierarchy.
Or it's like if you feel like you're kind of like you have no freedom and you're just very like in a little tiny box,
yeah,
you're more stressed, you know?
yeah. So just to sum up, sort of what we
Makes
talked
sense.
about, this was, I guess, more so. I said stress, but I quickly jumped out at me that all of these studies were in fact looking at social stress specifically as it relates to interacting with people. Social stress can lead to killing off brain cells, can lead to cardiovascular risk, can lead to other physical ailments, can lead to mental health issues, and it's just fascinating to me how something like, because it's like stress, it's anything mental
Yeah.
is black box, like you can't
Sure.
see it, you can't touch it, and yet it's one of those things where it's like you can't see the air but you know it's there.
Yeah.
And this is like all these studies, people argue, give credence to the idea of mental health, because it's like we can't see it, we can't touch it, but you better believe it's there because we can interact with it indirectly.
I think a lot of people don't even know that that's a thing. I think a lot of people don't even know that mental health can have direct physical impacts. I feel like I'm sure people know that, like, you know, if you're mentally ill and you're going through X, Y, and Z problems, maybe you don't take care of yourself. Maybe you have, like, you know what I'm saying? But like the actual stress directly, not indirectly, like directly has impacts on your body.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people think of mental health as like its own thing. It's like it's completely isolated from physical health. And so it's almost like you're saying, kind of these types of studies give credence to mental health, because it's like it not only is important to your, you know, your brain functioning, but also to like the rest of your body. It's pretty cool.
And in fact, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
Why?
Why what?
Why are you bringing this up?
No, why does this happen? Because this is what you were talking about was like interesting to me, but also felt kind of obvious, where it's like if the idea is like stress has physical effects on the body.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, sure, I'd buy that. But what I thought of when you were saying all that is like, why it feels like one of those like flaws in how we're built kind of thing, where it's like, what is the reason? Like
you're saying-
scientifically or
you're saying-
evolution,
This is the
like
reason.
speaking.
Wait, so I think he's saying like,
Yeah.
like, are you saying
Like
that,
I'm saying, like if you're stressed about your job
Yeah.
and your brain goes, we're stressed right now.
The problem is,
What if I clogged your fucking arteries? Like, where is the like
the
follow
problem
through in that?
Okay, I understand your question. The stress response in humans activates something called the sympathetic nervous system,
Right.
and it's your fight or flight response.
Right.
We react to situations. Over the course of evolution, our bodies were built to react
to survive
in this fight or flight manner.
Right.
So when that system is activated, it releases something called glucocorticoids, okay? And these are stress hormones. And these hormones do things like decrease your immune system activity, increase your blood flow,
and heart rate.
increase your heart rate.
Are you talking about? Are you also not? Isn't it also like adrenaline, like epinephrine, norepinephrine? Isn't it epinephrine? Like
epinephrine
like-
and
like-
norepinephrine, yeah.
Like the fight and flight response, like increases your adrenaline.
Epinephrine helps with, I believe, increasing heart rate. I think I may have misspoken there. I think in the short term, it doesn't affect your immune system that much. But this is where it plays in, where if you have the stress response activated for prolonged periods of time, which happens with the caregivers, which happens with
people who are hating their jobs and stuff.
People who are hating their jobs, their stress system is activated. That's where over time it weakens your immune system.
Right.
Does
And
that make sense?
makes sense too.
It's
And
like imagine
I
it's
was
like,
gonna
something's like overworked too much for
right. And I was going to say, from a fight or flight response thing,
Yeah.
like that makes sense to me too, in the sense of like, from an evolutionary perspective, it's like, okay, stress used to be, hey, you're being hunted by a fucking tiger right now, like in the woods or whatever the hell, like you have fight or flight. And I get applying that to like modern, stressors and things like fight or flight. But what's weird to me is like I get the like all the chemicals released, like everything's released to tell you something's wrong, and it triggers that fight or flight thing.
Yeah.
But what is interesting / confuses me and seems like one of those like flaws in how we're built is like why it wouldn't just send you the signals of like the alarm bells of like something's wrong, we need to fight or flight. But why the like effect of that is a worsening on the body's health, if that makes any sense.
Because you only have so many reasons. You only have so.
It's like overusing.
It's a heightened state that costs energy.
Right.
So your body can only be in that state for so long before.
So the idea is like
it needs to kill.
It can't operate healthily
like this. It can't
for that long
because it's dedicating all this shit to like the fight or flight.
It's like imagine like cavemen back in the days like running from animals and shit, and they're like fight or flight every single day.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously lived shorter lives, partly because they were probably killed and like hunted and shit themselves, but also I'm sure like because of all this like stress and strain on their body, like even if they didn't have any physical danger that was going to happen to them, like experiencing that every day like has a toll on your body.
Right. That I guess the like spinning plates thing makes more sense to me, because in my head when you were just saying all that, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense to me, that when you're stressed these like physical impacts happen.
Just to build,
my thing would be like, why is the body designed in a way to be like, we're stressed,
just to
make the body weaker.
Just to build on that, when you're in the fight or flight state and you're in the let's just call it the stress response, your body also releases something called pro-inflammatory cytokines, and that's sort of what plays into the cardiovascular risk. It's this prolonged exposure to these pro-inflammatory cytokines when you don't need when there's no tissue.
What's the function for them?
To cause inflammation in areas that need inflammation. So when you're injured, for example, they go to those injured areas. Okay, but
to increase blood flow there.
I can't speak to that.
Why would you want increased inflammation in an area?
You're right. I believe it would be for blood flow.
I want increased inflammation in my dick.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so
Cialis.
There's this thing that goes on with pro-inflammatory cytokines that I believe. It's something I really hate to misspeak, and because I haven't looked at this concept for a few months now, but it's something along the lines of they interact with the immune system and they die off.
This guy's yawning.
And they deposit deposit in your arteries.
And
to speak specifically to the cardiovascular risk, that's a simplified explanation as to how sort of that happens, where your arteries sort of get more crunched up and blood is harder to flow through them. And risk.
Yeah. It's like the way you're describing it again of like the spinning plates thing of like you can only have so many spinning plates before shit starts to crash.
Yeah.
Makes more sense to me. But
but of course, yeah, exactly. Like it's one of those things where it's beneficial in the short term, and it's meant to be a short term thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder in the sense of like from the evolutionary perspective of like
maybe in the future
there's almost a part of me that like you would think by now or like soon like it would evolve in a way of like, hey, we're going to like, send you the alarm bells but without like
the cost
inadvertently fucking you up.
But the problem is
soon.
I mean, I think he's saying like
in the distant future.
I think he's saying now that there's no like imminent threat, like in the modern world, at least, like there's no like imminent threat from lions or whatever. Like so it's like that function that the nervous system originally, or like the sympathetic nervous system originally served. Like we don't have to apply all that energy to like, if you're stressed about homework or whatever. It's like it doesn't have to be.
It's misattributing.
Sure.
Or even if it was,
maybe
even if the stressors were still there, it's like, can we do this in a way that like sends the alarm bells, but without adding, the extra plates that need to be spawned.
There's a whole research field dedicated to manipulating your sympathetic nervous system, and it can simply be done through breathing. You can increase. So the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's your scientists coin it like rest and digest phase, and through taking through paced breathing, you can have higher levels of that parasympathetic activation and effectively minimize your sympathetic activation. So there's like, I know you're saying, oh, your body should evolve, but we have tools.
We can do things.
Like scientists are discovering tools that allow us control of our body, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
The science of stress.
Science topic.
Science
I'm gonna do more of these
Please.
science topics, but I have ones that I think you guys will be more engaged with in the future.
Please.
One that I'm saving for Malcolm, because I was gonna do the one
Mm.
if he was gonna come. I was gonna do a different one, but
Right.
it is what it is.
Too bad. So sad. What a dummy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this. Yeah, this kind of goes slightly similar. Like, I have a topic. I guess it could be tackled from a scientific approach, and maybe I'll look into that slightly before I do it someday. But I would do it maybe in a more like, just like broad, kind of off the cuff sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like kind of in a slightly similar vein. But we'll get to that someday. Anyways.
Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Please like, comment, do all the things. Check out the Instagram. Check out the TikTok. We've been doing
We didn't
good
say like,
work
comment,
over
subscribe in
there.
the beginning.
I
did
know,
not.
I flubbed it.
Damn. Is it not in the script?
No, I forget if I added it or not.
No.
But anyways, yeah. So we've been doing we've been doing the social stuff. We got some things in the works. Hopefully in the not too distant future. And so yeah, stay tuned. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Good morning, maybe.
Guten Morgen.
Maybe you're
depending on where you are in the world or when you're listening.
Yeah,
to it.
maybe you're listening to this at 6 a.m. and you're waking up for your shit job. Who knows?
Why do you like to attack our listeners? What's wrong with you?
I like to keep them on their toes.
Right.
Anyways, goodbye. Thank you.